So what is it about Idaho that just feels different when you come here? And conversely, why is it so hard to leave?
Hey, in today's video, Eric and I are going to sit down and talk about freedom and liberty and all things Idaho. Let's go. If you guys are thinking about making the move, our real estate team gets calls, texts, and emails every single day from people just like you thinking the same thing. And that's not a weird thought. It's a good thought. Give us a holler. Let's have that conversation and see what we can do to help you guys make that smooth move right here to North Idaho. Hey, so what does free actually mean here when we talk about that in North Idaho? We're not talking about free handouts from the government. No, we're not talking about that. We're talking about freedom and liberty. I would say overall, Idaho, particularly North Idaho, is a very libertarian-based society. People just want to be left alone.
How about minimal government intrusion?
Yeah, sign me up.
How about property ownership? And it's not to say I love what DeSantis is doing in Florida, trying to remove property taxes entirely so you actually feel like you own your property.
Right.
But in comparison to other states, you don't get treated like a resource to be exploited here.
Yeah. How many people from Washington have you talked to lately that are like, oh, yeah, my property taxes are $12,000 a year?
I just talked to one of our brokerage owners that is looking at that right now. It's like, I want out of Washington. It's just they arbitrarily change it every year. And the problem is it's based on their assessments. Mm-hmm. So they can go in and change it annually. Mm-hmm. Idaho will still come out and do property assessments, but you can actually challenge their assessment and reduce your property tax value that year. Again, you just don't get treated like a resource to be exploited.
Yeah. What else about daily life makes Idaho feel more free?
Oh, man, I think you don't have to be ashamed of who you are and what you appreciate and what your values are. I tell retired cops all the time, wear your cop shirts here, man. Like, if you want to wear a shirt that depicts that you were in the military, you don't have to worry about judgment everywhere you go.
Unapologetically American, right?
Yeah.
That's what that tells me. You're right. You go into the store and the dude's wearing a 9-line shirt.
Yeah.
And they're pretty fit. And you look at them, you're like,
yeah,
I'm feeling you, brother.
You are allowed to be patriotic and have a sense of nationalism here.
Yeah.
It's encouraged. But conversely, the cousin that I was arguing with, I was like, if you want to wear your white dudes for Kamala shirt downtown, you might get a chuckle or two, but nobody's going to call you, like nobody's going to pick a fight with you over that.
No.
Which is vastly different than if you were going down there and you were going to wear a pro law enforcement blue line shirt in downtown Portland.
Yeah.
Right? That, to me, you can go as you are. I joke all the time. I said Crocs are North Idaho flip-flops. If you're going to wear those to dinner or restaurant or Costco, that'll probably drive some people away. I don't care. I got 2 pairs of Crocs. Whatever.
Yeah, but you kick them in 4-wheel drive and throw the Achilles strap up, and you're ready to rock, dude.
Yeah. When you've got snow on the ground, you can't be outside in flip-flops. You know what I mean? So you got your freaking off-wheel or off-road Crocs.
I'd say there's also, we've also got freedom from other things like terrible traffic, crowds, things like that. There's value in that. And I know someone's going to be like, well, if you keep talking about Idaho, we're going to have blah, blah, blah. But in reality, this place is really only a good fit for a certain segment of society. A lot of people wouldn't like it here. It's scary. Trump flags and things.
It's only as good as the culture that we maintain.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it takes work to keep it this way, but now we've had more people moving here, and in all honesty, what makes North Idaho's gotten even stronger. Before anybody says anything, that has not a damn thing to do with race.
Right.
It has to do with values and what you think is important. Minimal government. How about education freedom? You want to talk about freedom? How about freedom to choose what your kids are ingesting in school?
Boom.
And whether or not the schools are going to tell you what they're ingesting in school. That is a huge one for people out there, especially they're it's selecting a place to raise your family. Public education system is definitely something with freedom. What about medical freedom? There's just less government intervention or oversight here.
Yeah.
And we haven't got to talk about gun rights.
That's a big one.
Gun rights in Idaho are some of the most conservative in the country.
Yeah.
So if you want guns, own guns. Well, they firmly believe in, as our founding fathers did, that a well-armed population is a well-behaved population.
Absolutely. And like you say all the time, I'm going to give you credit for this phrase, but these states are out competing for qualified citizens, and Idaho's winning because we are a gathering place for some of the best humans that I have ever met in my life.
Right. And what are some of the common themes? I guess that's something to talk about. What are some of the common themes of those human beings? They are community oriented.
Yeah.
Patriotic.
Yeah.
Network inclined. Like that's the funnest part about when people come here to visit. I always say, look, I'll show you houses. That's fine. But go out to a couple of restaurants, go to the supermarket, chat people up. Tell them where you're from.
That's why I always like to meet clients at a coffee shop when they come to town. I'm like, hey, let's go hit up Best Life or Corling Coffee or whatever. Not Starbucks.
No.
And they come in and it's funny, and this kind of touches back on one of the things we talked about earlier of being unapologetically yourself. Right. And we have these conversations in the coffee shop, and a lot of times if they're coming from like California, Washington, Oregon, they're speaking in hushed voices. And I'm like, no, you know what? You can say whatever you want here.
It's okay.
It's okay.
Yes.
No one's going to jump you. The worst case is that the guy next to us is going to want to join the conversation, which is really not a bad thing, right? No. That's how you meet people. And even if you were saying, white dudes for Kamala or whatever, like you said, nobody's going to give a crap.
As long as you don't have this huge, like visceral, emotional response and all of a sudden shout everybody down that doesn't agree with you, you might end up in a candid, real conversation with somebody else that doesn't agree with you entirely.
It's funny how that works, how people can be civil.
Right. Huh. And I believe that is a societal construct. You can have good, respectful discourse. I feel like we just are able to have more of that here. I don't agree with it.
Which is contrary to the narrative out there, right?
Yeah.
You see these narratives a lot, and it's very frustrating, especially if you have left-leaning family members of the right being just, I don't know, smashing other people's opinions, like violent, angry.
Right.
Like, you actually don't see any of that up here. I'm pretty sure that's not true.
Right. And what's crazy is somebody said something the other day, like said, conservative sides tends to be the optimistic side. I said, honestly, yeah. Yeah, which is wild.
It is wild because I don't know if it's always been that way since we were kids. You know what I mean? I don't know, but it is now.
Yeah, I do believe that a sense of nationalism and a commitment to your community will make the world a better place.
Right.
And I do believe there is room for other people's opinions. What I disagree about is how we enter into those conversations and then having some rules at play so that it doesn't. You're not. If we're gonna have those conversations, you're not allowed to just go immediately off, out in right field emotional. An emotional response does not qualify as facts in that conversation. So, I don't know. I think you'd run into more of that here. And even if people disagree, even if neighbors disagree, I just see more of the old school. Even if we don't entirely agree on politics, we don't have to hate each other.
Yeah.
Right. And generally, when you're talking about what benefits the community, I've seen a separation of what they think benefits the community in politics, if that makes sense. Because the people who moved here from other states, even if they still lean that way, which is still kind of rare in North Idaho, I think you get more of it in Southern Idaho.
Yeah,
they want the community to stay the way it is now. Actually, I'm gonna go back real quick. There's one thing that sticks out to me when I think about having lived in other states and then freedom and what that means here. What a lot of people are talking about is buying their chunk of dirt. They want their piece of earth. I'm telling you, it looks a lot different when I'm sitting out on my deck and I'm looking out at my earth in a state that matches my values, where I don't feel like I'm leasing it from the government and they're constantly looking for a way to erode my ownership of that land.
I can't even put my finger on it, but now that I own 5 acres, and I've owned not quite that much acreage before, but I've owned a few acres before in other states that are not considered free, and there's something to it, dude.
Yeah.
I walk out and I'm like, I'm so incredibly thankful every day that I have that. And I can, there are very little regulations here, right? Like especially if you're in the county, if you're, there are HOAs here and sometimes you have limits that way. But if you're in the county, like I can do pretty much whatever I want. I can cut down trees and no one gives a damn. I can dig a hole. I can dig a really deep hole, if you know what I mean.
There's a guy in Hauser that has a cannon, bro. He fires off a cannon.
Exactly. I can hunt on my 5 acres.
Yeah.
I can shoot guns on my 5 acres. You know what I mean? Like having that kind of freedom, you can't put a price on that. I couldn't do most of those things in the other state on my land.
And I'm proud of it. I mean, I'm proud, and I'm not talking about as an individual. Oh, look at all that I've accomplished.
No, right.
I'm proud of owning a piece of earth in a community that I very willingly contribute directly to. I'm not sure how much of our actual job we did yesterday, but we had a lot of meetings that were things that we believe are going to keep our community this, resounding example for other communities, where we're willingly kicking back and we're in rooms full of people that are willing to do the same thing.
Yeah.
When I go out in town, I'm proud of where I live.
Right.
How many people can say that right now?
Oh, I know. Like, for example, if you guys call us and you come to visit and we're showing you around, I love showing new people this area because I'm genuinely so blessed and thankful to live here.
Yeah.
Like it's cool. And I've lived in 8 different states, right? I've been all over this country. I've lived in a lot of places and I've never been anywhere like this. So, when I'm driving you around or we're talking about coffee and I'm like extremely excited, that is a genuine reaction because of where we live.
Yes.
And yes, some of that is natural beauty. Some of that is, I don't know, but a lot of it is the community and the values.
Cleanliness
Yeah.
and no crime because our community members don't tolerate it.
Right.
Look at a comparative location for our office in Spokane. We're downtown. Like we're right on Sherman and 4th and that area in downtown, put it right across from the mall in downtown Spokane. What would that look like? Would you ever invite clients there?
No, I'd have to meet them at their car with my gun. Yeah, but you can't do that in Washington either.
Your gun, right. So I'm very proud of that, and it makes me even more prideful of owning a chunk of dirt here. That's a hard freedom to quantify. Right? Where you're legitimately proud of the place that you call home in our constitutional republic, with each one being a nation state. I'm proud of the one that we contribute to.
We should also touch on, not everyone is able to buy land. I'm very thankful. Like we worked hard for a long time and we did it. But if you can't, that's okay because Idaho is 60% public land.
Yes.
I don't know if that's the highest of any state, but it's got to be very close to it.
Well, according to Big John, he said it is the highest percentage of either state or federal land.
So most places you live, if you're in that, Coeur d'Alene, I hate to use the word metro area, but I think that describes it. I mean, in 15 minutes from pretty much anywhere in there, you can be onto state land.
It's over 50 million acres.
50 million.
2/3 of that's federal, and then the other third of that is state, often managed by, United States Forest Service and Bureau of Land Management and stuff like that. But over 50 million acres.
And the things you can do on that land, you're pretty open. You can hunt, you can fish, you can shoot, you can recreate on, ATVs, UTVs, you can hike, you can do whatever you want pretty much, just don't trash it.
You bring up a great point because I think everybody moves to Idaho, you want your big chunk of land. And we've been looking at land in Kootenai County, and it's just tough. I mean, finding a really good chunk of property that hasn't been snagged already is difficult. But even if you're moving into a neighborhood, if you have kids that are like young, school-aged, it might be a lot easier, and less or more pragmatic to live in a community. But UTVs are legal here. So you want to get out into the woods, man. Jump in your UTV and go catch some of that.
There's another freedom. Can't do that in a lot of places.
How many places can you be, 10 minutes from downtown and, a really nice hotel and really good restaurants and bars and all of and shopping and the other amenities that downtown Coeur d'Alene has, or the lighting festival or the cruises or whatever. Then you're also 10 minutes from nobody.
Yep.
There's no buildings out there. There's no structures. You're just out there in the woods. Especially, if you're out there at night and you're looking up at the stars with very little ambient light, it's unique, unique location.
And I should add, we're on the UTV tip, you can also ride in the back of a pickup truck here legally without a seatbelt. Now, as a former trooper, I don't recommend that.
Yes.
Seen that gone bad. But there's a time and a place.
Yeah.
And damn it, you just got to do it and it works.
Yeah. But on the tail end of that, when you're talking about state and public land, in North Idaho alone, there are 140 lakes.
Whoa.
And nearly 2,000 miles of rivers.
Holy crap.
I know. That's what I said. Idea. That shocked me.
Yeah.
I mean, the big ones, big ticket ones, Lake Coeur d'Alene, obviously. Hayden Lake here locally in Kootenai County. That's smaller than Coeur d'Alene, but then Pend Oreille is massive. Yeah. 6th deepest lake in the country. And then you've got Priest Lake, then one of my favorites. I shouldn't even mention that because I like it a lot.
Stunning, yeah. Don't look that up.
Yeah. But Twin Lakes, Spirit Lake, Hauser, it's over my neck of the woods. But some of those, and then there's a whole bunch of alpine lakes that Big John likes to hike to every opportunity he gets. But yeah, That's why I always say, like, boat slips are cool, but if you got a nice aluminum flat bottom boat, man, go travel, go check out new spots. But a lot of those miles on the rivers are navigable. So I mean, Pend Oreille River is full. It's really wide and really deep. So a lot of areas you go up to Coeur d'Alene River. That one's really cool. The St. Joe is absolutely beautiful. Some of the best fly fishing in the country. So it's pretty awesome. It's hard to get bored. If you get bored here, that's your fault.
Yeah.
All right?
That's a you problem.
Yeah, if you think freedom is sitting on your couch and ingesting one of that belt-fed narrative bullshit mainstream media is feeding you, then this isn't the type of freedom you're looking for. Sorry. Not sorry.
That might be a new shirt. Belt-fed narrative bullshit.
Belt-fed. You know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly.
Regurgitated shit. Sorry, Bobby. Beat me.
All right. Independence mindset that thrives up here. That's that self-reliance that a lot of people come here for. There are a large chunk of folks coming up here that want to homestead, be off-grid, and there's a lot of opportunity for that up here. There's a lot of land that's set up perfectly for that, and there's a large community of it. So there's a lot of people you can learn from and get in contact with and build that community in a number of the places up here. So I think there's value in that. It's important. I like to be able to get back to the roots, get into canning and hunting, obviously, fishing, all of those things.
Taking down your own trees, bumping your own trees, making your own heat.
It's satisfying in the soul.
I agree.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you get the chainsaw out and you're like cutting some trees, bucking some whatever.
That's a happy place for me.
It is my happy place.
I can't hear my
very
phone.
Meditative.
Like I'm covered in like you're sweating. I love taking down trees.
Yeah.
Okay, not like for the purpose of taking down trees, but when it needs to happen, I enjoy the exercise.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's good firewood, right? So, I think having those opportunities up here, having opportunities to get good food that's locally raised, right? There are a number of farms out here that low rate. I got to give a shout out to Jason Hanley, my boy over at Acme Acres, because he's like, come on, man. He's got that grass-fed beef, pork, chicken really now. Good. Like, it's good meat and it's raised locally.
It's awesome. And when you think about that mindset or the culture of North Idaho, there's a lot of things that are going in now, right? There's, Costco wasn't here. That was, maybe that was 8-9 years ago now, but there wasn't supermarkets everywhere. There wasn't, it wasn't super easy to go get all those products. Now there's a Trader Joe's right across from Pilgrim's Market and stuff like that. So you've seen some of those come in, but it hasn't always been that way. So there's a lot of people that actually, lived off the earth here in some way, shape, or form, whether it's their heat, their food, fishing, whatever, but they're very willing to pass on those skills. If you're moving here from somewhere else and it scares you thinking about plowing your driveway or taking down trees in your own yard, those are a lot of shared skill sets, and it's fun. I mean, once you get out there and start doing that, that's part of you're assimilating to an Idaho life, especially if you're going to live in the country.
Yeah.
Live in a neighborhood, you don't have to worry about it as much, but I noticed that when I moved to my new neighborhood on the north side of we got a huge snow this last week. And I got texts from 3 different neighbors. Hey, do you need any help? Do you need a plow?
That's cool.
Yeah, do you need me to bring the tractor over? Because they don't know where we're from.
Yep.
I've lived here for a long time, but it was super cool to see that. Like open arms. And a lot of them are from different places. They're just passing on what happened when they moved up there.
Right.
From other people that have lived there for a long time.
Feeling.
Yeah, so it's independent, but people are willing to share and assist.
That brings up another point that I talk about a lot is, a lot of you guys are, especially you former cops, I know what's up. You call us and you're like, hey, I want 20 acres in the middle of nowhere. I don't ever want to see another human being again in my life. And I'm like, well, hold up. Let us introduce you to some people up here, because like you said, your neighbors are actually going to be pretty cool. It's probably not like the neighbors where you're coming from, to be honest, if you're coming from another state. They're going to be very like-minded. They're going to be up here for the same reasons, and they're in general going to be really good people deep down inside. So maybe you don't need to live in the middle of nowhere. Maybe you can just have a few acres and then have some neighbors that you actually like.
Right. And if that is absolutely what you're after,
we can do it.
Yeah, we'll help you find that spot. But at the same time, I always encourage, come here for like a week, right? And that's not all about looking at houses. Go to some restaurants, go inside the supermarket, chat people up. Tell them where you're from and see if it's a fit.
Like if it's your first time here, don't even look at houses.
Yeah.
Come live in the community.
Yeah.
Do all the things. Walk around downtown Coeur d'Alene. It's the biggest city you got up here. So
hit us up. We'll meet you at the coffee shop. I'll give you a couple waypoints to go check out. To give you a wide, give you a variety of areas to check out and see which one feels right.
That's the way to do it.
Because that's the funny part about this area, right? I mean, North Idaho gets kind of lumped into one category socially, I guess, or one urban area. It's not like that. Coeur d'Alene's got a different vibe than Hayden does. Hayden's got a different vibe than Athol. Athol's different than Rathdrum. Rathdrum's different than Spirit Lake. And Hauser's different than all of them. But Post Falls is different than Coeur d'Alene. Even though they're all kind of connected, it's kind of a different feel in each community. Right. And obviously Sagal, Sandpoint, those are different. Priest River, Blanchard, they all have a bit of a different feel. So get out there and get into those communities.
That's it. Well, that's a wrap, folks. I hope this gave you a little bit more of an understanding. I think the culture, touching on the culture up here and how very libertarian it is, I think, it sums it up pretty well when people say, God, family, country. Yeah, that's the right order.
Yeah.
I'd say that's pretty accurate for the most part up here in the biggest segment of the population. So, values matter overall.
Yeah, you can't put a jacket on that. If it's snowy outside, you can put a jacket on. But the rest of that stuff, but truly, very few people moving here are moving here for just purely for geography. They're not coming here for a job.
Yeah.
That's not what you're looking for. What are you looking for? You're looking for freedom to raise your family the way that you want, have input on that, minimal government intrusion, and be around some other like-minded people, even if that means you don't agree on everything. I think that's what you're looking for. And those that are community-minded. I've noticed that change here. You're less selfish when you come here.
Yep.
I think that's what we're describing because you're more committed to the community development.
Yep.
That's what I see. That's where I think a lot of this comes from. You get a lot less selfish because when you live in another area where you have no say and that's completely out of your hands and it's manipulated, right? And you feel like a resource to be exploited, you go inward. You're like, I'm going to protect me and I'm going to protect my family and I. Like you dig your heels in. Here, be ready for that adjustment. You might bump out. You're like, okay, my circle's a little bit bigger than I thought. Next thing you know, you're networking with people in the community. You're like, cool.
Well said.
Yeah, cheers.
It's a throwback.
Yeah, throwback for sure. There's still barbecues in neighborhoods, and you can trust your neighbors when you go out of town, and you stay in contact. And
tailgating at the high school football game.
Yes, that is still
right there.
Yep, still the biggest ticket in town is high school football because everybody feels like they're contributing to those future contributing members of the community. Right, it's still small enough to where you can make a difference.
Boom. Hit us up.
Bye, guys.
Later.